Okay, hey guys, finally found some time to do my Saturn shooters video. It's not going to be the greatest quality, but it's just going to be a brief, well, it's not going to be very brief, but it's going to take a look at the shooters I have on the Saturn, the horizontal shooters which are all here, and my vertical shooters. Now I reached my milestone, my goal essentially on the Saturn. I wanted to get all the vertical 2D arcade shooters, and I managed to get a full set of them. So I'll be showing you those, but we're going to break this video into two parts. So I'll do the horizontal shooters first, and we'll go through them one by one, and I'll show you what I've got and what I think about the game. So yeah, that's pretty much. This video is I did a shooter collection video previously, and it was focusing on all different kinds of shooters that also included like first-person shooters, run and gun shooters, you know, shooters like Sky Target and Afterburner. This is essentially just focusing on, you know, the kind of shoot 'em ups like you would expect to get in the arcade, like literally just the horizontal and vertical ones. Okay, so we'll start with this one in the middle. I've put this one in the middle because it's kind of like a hybrid. Essentially, this has got two games on here: Image Fight, which is a vertical shooter, and X Multiply, which is a horizontal shooter. So X Multiply is really what I got this compilation for, really, because I used to play a lot of it on MAME, and it's kind of like a gritty looking shooter by IREM. If I can show you the screenshots there. It's got really good visual style. IREM are really good on their visuals, and sorry, the autofocus is not very good. The visuals are really good, and it's got a really lovely soundtrack. So I really like this game. It's a real tough game. It's definitely, these are probably the two of the hardest shooters I've got on the entire system. It's one of those kind of ones that you're going to need to play a lot, and how should I say, remember the the layout of the levels and where the enemies are. If you're going to progress, and I think on X Multiply I've only really got to stage 3, so that just goes to show either how shit I am at shooters or how difficult the game is, but it's a really good one. So obviously my horizontal shooter collection isn't as big as my vertical shooter collection, is because I do prefer the vertical shooters, but there are a selection of horizontal shooters that I like, which is hence why I've got these ones. I'm surprised that I have as many horizontal shooters with the spine cards. I don't really ever plan on getting spine cards with the horizontal shooters, but looking at my collection, it looks like I've got quite a few actually, as opposed to the vertical shooters, where I did try and get a spine card with all the horizontal shooters, vertical shooters I could. Where I didn't were probably ones that were maybe just too expensive at the time, or I just wanted to get the game for. But let's focus back on the horizontal ones for now. These are all in alphabetical order, by the way, so once I go through these videos, you can if you want to skip through, you can kind of see where I am. So in alphabetical order, the first one I have is this is Cotton Boomerang. This is the shooter featuring the famous witch or witches, and I got this version because it was the one kind of recommended by FutureMat5. It's the better version, it's the updated version, because it's got you don't have to do the button combinations, and you've got the 3 characters to choose from instead of having 3 lives. I've done a video about this when I picked it up essentially, but this is one of my Saturn must-haves. I wanted this version for a long time. It took me a long time to get it because it was quite expensive. It's not one of your cheaper games, but I'm really glad to have it, and yeah, thanks to FutureMat5 for recommending that one. Okay, next one is Darius II. or Darius II, however you want to say it. I believe it's Darius. Basically just going on the pronunciation of the Japanese katakana. It does say Darius, but that's not the point really. Darius, whatever. This is a great release on the Saturn. It's probably the best release of Darius II you can get on any console. Now, this was a game that when it was released in the arcade, it came on two screens. It was 2 screens long, so it's a real strange, unique kind of game where you had essentially two monitor lengths for the whole game. Now this includes that, and what you can do, it's got a nice feature. You can use the L and R buttons on the controller to zoom in, and it's a really handy feature when you're doing when you get to the boss battles. But it's absolutely a fantastic version. It's definitely the version to have, and I really like it. I love the Darius games because they're really, very unusual games, and it's one of the horizontal shooters I really like. So really glad to have that. And then you've got Darius Gaiden. Probably the best, better than Darius II, because there's just so much more levels, content in here. I mean, it's just an amazing release. One of those kind of games like Outrun, where after the stage completes, you can pick your route, you can choose from various levels, and it gives the game so much replay value. It's not just your standard level to level shooter. You can kind of choose your path. And if there was one horizontal shooter on the Saturn to have, it's definitely this one, simply for the amount of content and levels and replay value in it. It's a fantastic game, balls hard, but a real good challenge, really good fun, keeps you coming back. Awesome game. This is the Konami Gokujo Parodius Da. So this has 2 of the first Parodius games that were released on the Super Famicom. Now I got this because I did want to get into trying these Parodius games. I was never really into buying them at all, really. It's kind of fortunate or lucky I have this one, because I simply got it just to try it out and see what they were all about. I've seen and I'm told that Sexy Parodius is the one to have, but I haven't bought that version yet because I haven't properly played through and completed these ones. I want to give them more time. I do like these games on this version. Gokujo Parodius is the better version because you got more characters, slightly better visuals as well, but not bad. Pretty fun. I do like it, but I need to play it more before delving into the other releases or getting Sexy Parodius. But I really only got this to try this whole cute shooter genre out. And I do love Konami. Konami is one of my favourite developers, but being a horizontal shooter it wasn't one that was on the top of my list, but I'm happy to have this version to get that kind of Parodius fix, really. Okay, Gradius Deluxe Packs, obviously where the Parodius version's spin-off came from. I love this game, awesome. I think I've done a little video about this previously, but the Gradius games, there's 2 games on here, so you get a really good bang for your buck, and classic arcade, real fun game to play. It's one of those ones where obviously you power up your ship, and it's a glorious game when you're fully powered up, but it gets real tricky when you get hit and you lose your power-ups and you struggle to get back on track. But a glorious game, real good Konami classic shooting action, and I'm absolutely dying to get an arcade stick to play this with. I'm still yet to get one. Christmas is around the corner, New Year, hopefully, fingers crossed, I'll pick one up. But it's one of the main, of all these shooters, one of the main reasons I want to get an arcade stick would be to play this, because I really want to, you know, try it. And you know, I've never played any of these games with arcade sticks, so that's the first one I will definitely play when I get one. This is Hyper Duel. This is the Technosoft shooter, and it's essentially what's the word? Thunder Force souped up is what I call it. Really good shooter. One of the more expensive ones. Obviously, you can see I didn't get it with the spine card because of the price. I just really wanted, I'm happy to have the game, a copy of the game, just to play on the Saturn. It's a Saturn exclusive, and the Saturn version is definitely the version to play, apart from the arcade. So I really had to have this in the collection. It came well recommended, and it didn't disappoint. I thought personally it was worth it, every penny I paid for it. So really happy to have that, and it's hours of fun. Great game. Okay, I've put this in here because this does have a few shooters on it. It's not all shooters. This is the Konami MSX collection, and you can see here there's a couple of Gradius. There's Gradius 3 on here, the MSX versions of the game. So I guess these kind of count. So I thought I'd just show them in the collection, on the collection video. But this is essentially a pack of other MSX games as well that were released on the Saturn. And yeah, carrying on from like the Gradius theme, we've got Salamander Deluxe Pack Plus. Now this actually has 3 games on it as opposed to just the normal 2 that the other deluxe packs have. And it's all about Salamander 2 on here, really. Just awesome, stunning visuals. Great gameplay, music. I do prefer this to Gradius as well. Visually, it's a stunning game. I think I've got. Oh no, it's Gradius I have on the Game Boy Advance actually. But I love this on the Saturn. This is just arcade perfection. And another I'm itching to get the arcade stick on and have a play with. Konami at its best. Great game. Okay, so this is a game I got off Awesome Future Matt 5 when he sold a few of his shooters. A horizontal shooter I wanted in the collection for the longest time. Played loads of this on MAME, on the MAME emulator. But so glad to have a physical Saturn copy. Real proud of this. Love it. Great game. Stunning visuals. You know, I think Atlas did publishers to, I think it's Sikio, who just have the most iconic kind of art style when it comes to their 90s arcade shooters. This is one that comes highly recommended from me personally. You get a little cool bonus CD, soundtrack CD on here as well. So it's a nice little package. I don't think it's super expensive at all, but it's a great game, and I would recommend getting a copy of that. Absolutely. This is Soul Divide. This is kind of, it's a horizontal shooter, but more of a melee as well, because you don't play as like a ship, kind of like Sengoku Blade. You play as an actual person flying through the air, and you've got like melee weapons and magic and stuff you can shoot. It's a real different take on the kind of horizontal shooter genre, but it's got really nice visuals. It took me a while to get into this game. I did play a bit of it on MAME, I used to, but I didn't like it that much. But having it on the Saturn, I gave it a lot more time. It's got a great story mode. It's got it's actually a really good game. When I first ever played this, the visuals, the gameplay didn't really sell it for me, but I've given it a bit more time, and it has grown on me. So I do think it's a better game than I initially thought. Probably not for everybody, because it's quite dark and gritty, and but it's for me, I quite like it. Not the best horizontal shooter, but it's good. It's pretty good. Okay, this is one of the first shooters I picked up on the Saturn. Probably the first one actually. This is Super Dimension Fortress Macross. This was like the cheapest, like £5 game. I got it because it was a shooter and it was so cheap, and because I like the Macross anime. I was quite disappointed because the game, I think 80% of it was like video cutscenes and stuff, and you didn't really get much gameplay, and it's over like 2 discs as well. Loads of content on there, but not as much shooting action as I'd like. But it's in the collection, and it is what it is. So yeah, there's Macross. Okay, this is a game I never really would have bought, to be honest, if I wasn't doing this whole Saturn collection game. Now, Thunder Force 5, I think, is a game a lot of people love and think it's amazing. It's a game I guess I obviously need to play a lot more because I haven't really got given a lot of time. I've always hated the visual style of this. I do love the Thunder Force games, Thunder Force 3, Thunder Force 4, and when it comes to this, I just don't like what they did with it. Those kind of 2.5D graphics. I know it's very Radiant Silvergun-esque, and I love Radiant Silvergun, but it's probably the fact that I really haven't. I have tried to play this. I've tried to play this a couple of times, but I just haven't given it. It's not grabbing me. It doesn't grab me as a fantastic game. I'm probably being completely unfair, but yeah, it's not a game I really like, to be honest. I'm just really biased against it. I don't like what they did with the graphics, but I'm sure it's a great game, but I'm probably being unfair. I need to play it more. Here's what I'm talking about though. Thunder Force Gold Pack 2. So on here you get Thunder Force AC and Thunder Force 4. So essentially the Mega Drive version, Thunder Force 4. Thunder Force AC was the version on the arcade. It's kind of like a souped up version of Thunder Force 3. You know, you got this classic Mega Drive 16-bit kind of sound effects, graphics. This is what Thunder Force for me is all about, that more retro 2D style that I love. Great game, great package. I don't have the Gold Pack 1 because the Thunder Force 3 on there, I believe, is... I haven't heard great things about it. Plus, you know, I can play it on the Mega Drive anyway. It's just the way they've done the music on it. It's CD audio, and it's not like synced to the actual game. It's kind of just... It's weird how they did it, but I'm just a bit... I've read a bad review on it essentially, so I just stayed away from it. Anyway, I'm sure it plays great. But here's another Saturn release. This is Metal Black. It was obviously a horizontal shooter. This is kind of like another dark, gritty kind of looking game. Kind of like a mix between Darius and Thunder Force. It was released in the arcade originally. It's a beautiful game. It's that 2D kind of crazy monster psychedelic game, and it plays really well. Really good game. Metal Black. I'm not going to get a gold label version. I'm happy enough just to have the Saturn release. You know, I don't need another copy just to have a gold version. I'll stick with that one. Okay, last game. This is a shooter that I think flies under a lot of people's radar. This is called Wolf Fang. Now this is actually a sequel to the vertical shooter on here called Skull Fang. But this is a horizontal one where you're kind of like a mech robot. And I've got a lot of praise and a lot of love for this game because when they released the Saturn version, they kind of revamped it, the arcade version, put in new visuals, new sound effects, new speech sampling. So the Saturn version essentially is a real kind of update from the arcade release. It's one of the more expensive games on the Saturn, but it's quality and it's got good replay value. And the thing that really sells this game for me is the fact of the seemingly infinite loadouts that you can build when you build your robot. So when you start the game, you select a number of different loadouts for your robot, from the arms to the shooting weapons to how many legs it has and stuff like that, and you essentially build your own mech before you start the game. You can see in here kind of the options. It's got all these options for choosing your loadout, and it runs into the dozens. You can spend all day customizing your robot, so you can play the game like over a dozen times and have a different robot every single time. So it's a real kind of unique game in that fact, and that's Fang for the Sega Saturn. Yeah, unfortunately quite pricey these days, but it was a must-have for me. So that's my horizontal shooters. Stay tuned for part 2 where I'll show you all the vertical shooters. My pride and joy, because I'm happy to say I've completed collecting every arcade 2D arcade shooter on the Saturn. So we'll take a look at the ones that I've got, show you what they are. Like the video, please do if you like it, and yeah, stay tuned for more. See you in a bit.